Hola Spain lovers, Stuart here with another video, and when you think of Spain you're probably thinking of sun-drenched beaches, historic cities and a vibrant culture, right? And yes, Spain is known for those things, but is it safe to visit the country right now? So in this video I'm going to talk about some of the current travel advisories that are out there, safety concerns and real-time incidents that might affect your travels in this wonderful country, Spain. So let's get into it. Now let's have a look at some of the travel alerts that are out there, starting with the United States. And surprisingly, for me at least, the United States has Spain at level 2. And the reason for this level 2 warning is apparently because of terrorism and also civil unrest. And it says on the website that terrorist groups continue plotting attacks against Spain. Now I imagine that this is a risk level that the United States puts out for many European Union countries, because let's be honest about this, in the past Europe has had a problem with terrorism. Spain has had a problem with terrorism over the last 10 years or so. There have been attacks and they continue to happen, although sporadically. And let's not forget other European countries that have had similar issues. And the US government is warning people to be extra careful in places like tourist locations. Transportation centres like airports and train stations also get a mention. Markets and shopping malls too. Places of worship and educational institutions, major sporting events like football games and cultural events like the many festivals here in Spain, and parks like the one that I'm in currently also get a mention. They also say that demonstrations are common and might take place as a result of political or economic issues, and there are some public holidays here in Spain that might spark these demonstrations, for example in places like Catalonia with their National Day there. The UK and Australia also have travel warnings about Spain, but those warnings are only at level 1. So level 2 for the States, level 1 for Australia and the UK. And again, the things mentioned are the risk of terrorism and these demonstrations that, let's be honest, quite often take place in Spanish cities, especially the big cities, Madrid and Barcelona. The Australian warning also talks about the risk of petty crime, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on in the video. And it also mentions the recent natural disasters that have been affecting a lot of people here in Spain in recent times, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on too. So from these warnings, I would say that Spain generally is safe, but you need to be on your guard in certain situations, for example at major events, and also if these demonstrations are taking place. Now moving on to the topic of demonstrations and protests here in Spain, yes, as I just mentioned, they do seem to occur frequently. In recent times, the demonstrations that stand out have been about tourism, because basically some people here in Spain, and I'm going to say that it's a minority in my opinion, is fed up with tourism, fed up with the Spanish tourism model. And in recent years, they have taken their protests against Spain's tourism model to the streets. There have been protests in Barcelona, there have been protests in the Balearic Islands, the Canary Islands, the south of Spain, the east of Spain. Basically, these protests have been taking place all over the country. And last year, I think it was, some of the protesters took their grievances to a new level. They started attacking tourists directly. What happened was that there was a group of diners in the city of Barcelona enjoying their evening meal at around 6 or 7 p.m, the usual time that foreigners in this country eat, and an anti-tourism protest happened to be passing by. What happened next was that some of the protesters took out water pistols and started squirting and insulting the tourists. And let's just say that the international media picked up on this very, very quickly, especially the British press. And Spain's tourism model was thrown into the spotlight. Tourism here in Spain has been growing a lot in recent years. In fact, the country is on track to hit the 100 million international visitors mark pretty soon. And some locals, I'll repeat that, some locals are not happy about the impact that tourism is having on their lives. But it's not only tourism that has caused Spaniards to hit the streets and complain in recent times. There have been protests over political matters, for example, some of the things that are happening between Spain and Catalonia currently, and the way the government is handling that. People are not happy, especially one side of the political spectrum, and other issues, for example, immigration, are causing Spaniards to take to the streets. So my advice for people in this situation would be that if you are travelling here in Spain and you come across one of these demonstrations, stay away, because sometimes even peaceful demonstrations can turn a bit chaotic. Now, crime obviously is another thing that can ruin your experience here in Spain. You get your bag stolen, you get your phone stolen, you get your passport stolen, and you have a pretty bad time, right? And yes, Spain, like many other European countries, does have a bit of an issue when it comes to petty crime. Pickpockets and bag snatchers, unfortunately, seem to be rife in the main tourist areas here. And there are some other crimes to be worried about. For example, recently there was a story in the press about highway pirates in places around Barcelona. Personally, I've never been affected by this type of crime because they seem to target rental cars only. And basically what happens is that you get flagged down on the highway by somebody who seems to be in distress, and they end up stealing everything that you've got. So careful with that one. And there have also been reports of hotel room break-ins in popular tourist destinations like Benidorm, for example. So again, be on the lookout and alert for this type of thing here in Spain, but I'm going to say that it's not all that common. Now, this is a topic that has been dominating headlines not only here in Spain but around the world in recent times. All of these natural disasters that have been occurring here. Wildfires, heat waves, severe flooding, severe storms, wreaking havoc and changing people's lives around the country. I don't think these should put anybody off travelling to Spain because it's very, very difficult to control natural disasters, but there are going to be risks at certain times of the year. For example, during the summer months, heat waves, wildfires, during the autumn and spring months, storms, and certain parts of Spain are at more risk than others when it comes to these events. For example, flooding, think the Valencian community, think Murcia, and they have had some serious floods in recent times. So the advice here is to stay up to date when it comes to news about Spain. On this channel here, you can get all the news you want, and also keep an eye on weather alerts because you never know when one of these weather phenomenons is going to hit. So let's have a look at some practical tips as far as safety here in Spain is concerned. And yes, a lot of these tips would be useful in other countries too. Tip number one, quite simple, stay alert in crowded situations. Use cross-body bags, stay in secure hotel rooms, and avoid flashing valuables around, for example, expensive watches, because there's nothing a thief likes more than seeing an expensive watch on somebody's wrist and then trying to relieve that person of their watch in broad daylight. Tip number two, and fairly logical, avoid stopping for strangers. And this is especially true in places that you are not familiar with, for example, a highway in the middle of nowhere. Tip number three, watch out for protests and civil unrest. Stay away from protests or demonstrations, and it might be a good idea to have a flexible itinerary just in case you need to make a fast change. Tip number four, monitor weather alerts because fires, storms, and sea events can develop very, very quickly. Tip number five, practice caution around nightlife areas here in Spain. Always stick with people that you know, avoid risky venues, and keep Spain's emergency number 112 on speed dial. And tip number six, quite simply, get travel insurance and make sure that it covers theft, medical emergencies, and if possible, natural disasters. And if you want a good travel insurance option, there's a link in the description below. So to sum up, is it safe to travel to Spain right now? The answer simply yes, but of course with awareness. Every place of course has its risks, but if you keep your wits about you here in Spain, the country remains magical. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. I would love to hear your opinions on this topic. Have you had good experiences here in Spain? Have you had bad experiences here in Spain? Let me know in that comment section. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so that you never miss a video when I publish it. Until the next one, hasta luego from the outskirts of Madrid, Spain.